Good morning and good afternoon, our merry Marvelites. Yes, indeed, we are here a full hour earlier than usual. We appreciate everybody who's already in the chat populating the conversation. This is Marvel Movie Talk. As always, I am Christian Blatt and joined by the one, the only, the Michael X. Seb Shirley. Michael, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was out late with our mutual friend Eric Connor, who will be joining us shortly. We saw a 35 millimeter presentation of Werewolf by Night, and we'll be talking about that in non-spoilery terms very soon. But I believe everybody will be able to watch it tomorrow on Disney Plus. But we'll talk a little bit about it without giving anything away. There's minor things you can give away.
Yeah.
But first, we're going to talk about She-Hulk episode 8. And I know someone who worked on the production, and they told me that this, before I'd seen it, they told me that this was their favorite episode of this show and might be their favorite hour of Marvel television. Michael Shirley, what did you think of episode 8 of She-Hulk?
Favorite hour of Marvel television might be going a little too far.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to follow up and be like, do you mean Marvel Studios television? Because if Netflix stuff counts, then I don't know,
But yeah, this definitely was my favorite episode. It had action, it had lawyering, and a surprise romance that I never saw coming.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it coming earlier in the episode, but
okay, well, yeah,
but ahead of time, no.
Never would have thought that.
No, but I'm very happy for both of them, because honestly, Dee Dee, you could do better than Karen Page. I mean, come on. She gave away your secret identity for a vial of crack, I mean, and not like a room full of crack, just one hit. This was some real ribbit and rip it fun. I really enjoyed this. And I think that there have been some really solid episodes of this show, and I think they do a good job capturing the tone. I think this was the perfect episode of this show. It has the perfect balance of everything. You bring in some other characters. It is a continuing story. Huge team up, I mean, and we'll of course spend more time on that. But ultimately, I think Jen her way through this entire, I was going to say hour, but this entire, half hour. So, and I was here for it, and all on board. So interesting. Ivan Soto, I ship Frank as in Castle the Punisher and Karen Page. So I was fine with this romance. I mean, there was some definitely on-screen chemistry for those two on the Punisher. I just don't know that the Punisher will ever love again. I don't even know if he'll ever like again. I think that all that the Punisher will do is shoot again and again and again. But I could be wrong. What do I know?
I still haven't finished that last season of Punisher.
Well, Z and I did the AfterBuzz after show. It wasn't really official. I was trying to make it sound more impressive, and then I realized, wait, that's a really quick lie to figure out. In my mind, it was official. We did the after show for AfterBuzz, so we, there's somewhere out there. I think there's probably, I don't know if we did. I think there's probably like 6 episodes of us talking about it, and people should definitely check that out and check out all the Netflix shows because we're starting to see that they might be relevant. There's a lot of great moments in this show, but the one that I think made me the closest to losing my proverbial shit was when we heard the theme from the Netflix series, when he's like, "Oh, I'm Daredevil," and I'm like, "Oh my God, they used that." And you got to pay somebody, you got to license that music. And I don't know. I was very excited for that. That's, it's not on the level of hearing the X-Men 92 theme in Doctor Strange or in Ms. Marvel, but it is is still pretty cool, you know, to have an identifiable piece of music make that kind of reaction. I was excited. And, you know, I think that we're still figuring out what this Daredevil brings to the table from the Netflix series. Are we going to have Karen and Foggy? I don't know, but what are your thoughts, sort of, about all of this? About getting to spend so much time with Matt, aka the Devil of Hell's Kitchen?
Well, there are a lot of people talking about, how are they going to approach this, and it seems to me like the past won't be lost. Like it's like they call this a reboot, I guess, like its own official thing, but I wouldn't think that all of his past adventures were just for nothing. I mean, he seemed pretty much like the same guy.
Yeah, he's had his run-ins with goons and henchmen, which I thought was very funny, by the way, the differentiation. Yeah, I think that they might not specifically carry things over. And then they're going to have to make a decision. Like, why wouldn't you use the same Foggy? You know, that sort of a thing.
Yeah. I think maybe they'll just not talk about certain things.
Yeah, I mean, we're still going to have Fisk. We're still going to have D'Onofrio as Fisk. So it's like, all right, yeah, we don't have to build up the relationship. Maybe this iteration, it's a little different than what we saw before. There's more to it, a little bit less from it. And yeah, I mean, Charlie Cox, I think, said that this is a reboot, not a continuation. And I think when you do a reboot, there's things that you can keep. And then you're also able to dismiss things that maybe didn't work, you know?
I mean, when he says that, for me, I'm thinking, okay, well, what's the difference? Like, it seems like he's kind of like confusing what they are. So if all the same cast is there, if he's got the same kind of thing going, like, I mean, what? Like, they gave him a new suit. Like, maybe the new series isn't going to be quite as dark. Like, I don't think it can be, but I don't think that it needs to be either.
Right.
I don't know. That just seems silly to me because it is a continuation, right?
Yeah. Well, look, I think Ivan kind of nails it here. I have a feeling that this Matt is like how Constantine in the Arrowverse, very similar to the NBC version, same actor, obviously, but no mention of partners. So with Matt, no mention of Karen and Foggy. And I think when he makes guest appearances, I mean, especially in Spider-Man No Way Home, there was no time for references to, his friends. In this, you're just leaving the door open because you're figuring out what you're going to actually bring over. If there's going to even be a Karen, if there's even going to be a Foggy. Can't imagine having Matt without Foggy, but
I think if they do that, it'll be like a Sex in the City situation.
What? Chris Noth's going to have a heart attack in the first episode?
No, the way they deal with Samantha's character, like,
wait, she's like on vacation?
She lives in like London or Paris or something. I forget.
Yeah. So you're thinking that Karen might be flatmates with Samantha from Sex and the City. They're gonna live in the same place. Also with Suzanne Summers from Three's Company. After they wrote her out. So there's like a witness relocation program for actors who get written out of series unceremoniously. Actors who get cast.
Chrissy,
Dick York is there while Dick Sargent is sergeanting Samantha on Bewitched.
So yeah, it'd be Karen, Chrissy, and Samantha.
Chrissy Snow. I love that you called her Chrissy. Chrissy Snow from Three's Company. Daniel Drew, you don't miss anything, but you missed the musical cue till you watched a reaction video. I was too engrossed and everything. I was watching it. It was like, I don't know, 12:30 in the morning. So I guess the fact that I had the volume low didn't matter because of my surroundings were so quiet. Because I was newly returned from the movie, which we'll talk about a little later. Hey, this was Eric's thing. All right. I didn't get us into this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know Eric had. Well, he's got that Burbank pull.
Yeah, exactly. So he's definitely got that. Let's talk about Leapfrog. What a D-bag. You know, and I mean, it's a character that I remember. I remember a Spider-Man that had him in it. I think they had Leapfrog and the Toad both in the same issue. I'm gonna look it up while we're talking, and I'll go find it. But
Toad, like X-Men.
This is Amazing Spider-Man. Oh yeah, that Toad. Yes,
that Toad.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Sorry,
I really like him.
You like the character of Toad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you know, they didn't do enough with him in the movies, but I always thought Toad was an interesting character. Honestly, Toad and Blob are two of the most amazing supporting characters, both from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. You know, just the very
I like all that with like Pyro and Avalanche, like that whole like
that iteration that became Freedom Force with Mystique and Destiny, and boy, I just thought Mystique and Destiny were friends when I was a kid. I had no idea. I just didn't read between those lines. But let's talk about Leapfrog. Give us some of your thoughts about this iteration of that character and how you think he fits in here on this show.
I didn't know anything about Leapfrog. I think that's why they picked him, because most of us wouldn't. And they're doing that thing that I wanted, where they're pulling like these really obscure characters for her to represent. And when they said his name, I was like, oh, is there like going to be some conflict of interest with like that children's like tablet? He was really funny. I liked the beginning action scene with him when you're like getting to know him, and he like turns on his boots, and it's just kind of like, you don't really see that in the Marvel universe, like heroes stuff backfiring on them, and you see more of that like in things like The Boys, or like Marvel always takes itself really seriously. So that was nice to see that kind of lightheartedness. And this, I don't know, he kind of brought exactly what I want from these little side characters, like just these like wacky personalities.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this series and also MODOK, as we've talked about, has done a great job sort of visiting some of the wackier, let's say the more offbeat, zanier Marvel characters that we've had, and one of my favorites from MODOK being Armadillo, and but getting us Leapfrog, as you see here from Amazing Spider-Man 266, Leapfrog and Toad versus Spidey in the black suit. What more could a young boy have wanted than that to arrive in my mailbox in the brown paper wrapper, my subscription copy of Amazing Spider-Man 266. So yeah, I had that. This may be the only comic I ever read with this character, though. I could be wrong, but
I love how next to like Peter Parker, Toad looks like a normal sized person.
Yeah, he's a bit of a scrawny dude. Yeah, look, I don't know. I thought that this was great, and and Ghost jumps in. I love She-Hulk and Daredevil's interaction in this episode. Yeah, that's a word for it. Interaction. All right. But yeah, no, I thought that when they were on screen together, that they were very funny. And as Jen and Matt also sort of getting out lawyered by the lawyer from New York was some funny lawyering. But yeah, I mean, Jen seems to end up with these people who, I don't know, like
they don't really stand much of a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some of them she's able to help kind of negotiate it, with the shapeshifter who is it? Was Megan the Stallion, and just some of the dumbest people that you could find out with, that you could really spend some time with. And yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting because he's not like a Leapfrog's not like a bad guy, but he's not a good guy either. He's sort of one of those misguided characters. It's like for anybody that watched the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, the Kamal Nanjiani Jedi who wasn't really a Jedi. Wasn't really a bad guy, but he was definitely, ripping people off by pretending to be something he wasn't. Yeah. So this guy was funded by daddy's money, much like Eric Connor funded by daddy's money. Just a little joke because he's not here yet, but one of these days. Eric actually sent me a little bit of. He sent me an image that is being referenced in the chat right now. So why don't I go ahead and bring up Daredevil's Walk of Shame, which I did think was very funny, and Kemi Egan appreciated it too. Look, we've been there, okay? we've all been there. Not dressed like a devil, but maybe you have been dressed like the devil.
No.
But it was just a very funny, it wasn't like the most necessary shot in the show, but it was such a nice little punctuation mark, just very funny.
Plus, why isn't he wearing his shoes?
You think those things are comfortable? You want to put those on first thing in the morning?
I don't know. It's just a little more weird.
Yeah. And Kemi Egan also says, I'm glad they brought back the legal aspect of the show, and her banter with Matt in and out of court was good. I agree. I thought the legal advice to Leapfrog while they were kicking ass was hilarious. That actually was pretty funny. Yeah. It's like, no, I just watch a lot of legal shows, So that, look, the majority of this episode was just a lot of fun. Because the designer character, and I'm sorry I forget his name, was not in
Luke something.
Yeah, was not in great peril. Is he a fashion designer that will one day be played by Jared Leto in a movie, or am I wrong about that?
Jared Leto wants to play everyone.
I mean, Jared Leto in the Michael X. Shirley story. Like, why not at this point, But
maybe he'll play me one day.
Yeah, exactly.
When I do something horrible.
What? How are you going to possibly do something horrible?
I want to talk about the new Daredevil suit.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Actually, that was one of the things I was going to say is like, this is a funny scene, but it gave us the best look at the Daredevil suit because it was in daylight.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Yeah, give us. Yeah, give us your thoughts about this.
I did like when she said like ketchup and mustard for like color scheme. Like he does kind of look like a hot dog without his bun. Like I don't know. I think the color is really weird. Like I remember that kind of iteration, like the yellow and the red and the black, from the comic books. And yeah, it's a lot more cheesy than this, but it's a little more consistent in the design. I don't know if it's because he has his boots off, but it's kind of like the yellow's kind of oddly placed in the suit. Like there should be more of it around his legs.
It's not just the helmet. So I agree. Obviously the yellow Daredevil suit was when the character debuted, and they quickly switched to the red one. The red one I think is actually a really cool suit. I'm talking about the comic book version. The yellow one never worked for me, like in any way. This is interesting to have these highlights. I'm not quite sure why they have them. I think maybe it is just sort of like subconsciously.
The beginning.
Yeah, it could be because this is more of the beginning. It could be to subconsciously, play with the tone. And thank you, Kemi Egan. Luke Jacobs is the character name. So I appreciate that. Let's see, where did that go?
That dog is looking at him like he's a hot dog too.
Yeah, I mean, he will probably eat him at some point. That's fine. But anyway, somewhere in here, there it is. Ivan Soto wanted to know how I felt about Matt's humor in this episode. I mean, I think that the character of Matt Murdock, obviously a lot of the storytelling was dark and just brutal things were happening to him. but he had his light moments. He was able to be funny with Foggy, and there would be moments. He wasn't really a wisecracking super friend like Spidey, but I think as Matt, he's able to be kind of funny, and he's definitely able to come off charming and a little flirty. So I don't know. I didn't feel like this was inconsistent with the Matt that we've seen before. Did you feel like this is consistent with past appearances of the character, basically through 3 seasons of Daredevil?
Yeah, I mean, he's like in LA, he's having a good time, like he's around her. Like, how can you not kind of be a little more like laid back around someone like her? Because she's not like Karen, like at all,
Yeah, no, absolutely. She's not Karen. Karen's a bit of Karen, but yeah, I don't know. I thought that it was fun. I'm glad that they sort of realized that they were on the same side pretty quickly. Cool to see some fight, though. You know what I mean? Like to watch her, She-Hulk smash, and then he kind of jumps away from the crumbling. I thought that watching them show off their different skill sets, I think was fun. And
I thought it was
kind of explaining his powers as well. What were you going to say, Michael?
It was also really cool because you've never really seen him up against someone who's you don't really see him up against super powered people, he's not really super powered himself. I guess like Fisk would be the closest thing he would have to someone that kind of has like otherworldly strength or stamina or whatever. But how she did that clap and it like threw off his sense, like when it threw him into that car, you could see he wasn't ready to like fight her. Like it really kind of like knocked out all of his, what did she call it? She called it echolocation. Yeah. So it was neat to see him be bested a little bit and show that he, really isn't super powered. Because I haven't.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's not super powered. He's incredibly well trained, from a fighting acrobatic standpoint, but his senses are just heightened, so he's able to compensate for being blind. But yeah, he doesn't have actual powers. He's an altered individual due to the big chemical spill. But it's and how She-Hulk unwittingly just disarms him in the one way possible, which is basically like a sonic boom clap. She had no idea what she was doing when she did it.
He's basically like in the Netflix series, like the Superman type. Like when you see him fighting, you just like you forget that the character's blind because he's so good, he's so fast. Like no one ever like really touches him, and she kind of like changed all that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking sort of about their interaction and just look, I think that this show wasn't afraid to it's funny because in the start of the episode, they have the little TV rating in the corner, and it said intense sexual situation, and I'm like, what is that going to be? And then it turned out to be their bare feet on the floor,
Well, you know how these comic book companies can be about their superheroes.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is still Disney. Ivan Soto, Matt never looked Jen in the eye, right? Well, yeah, he's blind, so I think that that Charlie Cox should still always play it like that. You know what I mean? Where I don't, for all of his heightened abilities, I don't think he's able to make eye contact. I don't think he can. I don't think he can know that he's exactly looking into your eyes. He can look at you. He can look at your face and kind of see it in the, in the way in the comics where they kind of show like all the lines and everything. But yeah, I don't know that we would get that. I agree with Daniel Drew. This was nice. I love the little red Hulk nod. Yeah, there's a lot. When our pal Eric will be jumping in momentarily, and we'll kind of talk about
he is.
He texted me for real.
Oh, okay.
But he you know what, Ivan, I think you're right. The intense sexual situation was the Josh video at the end. Yeah, you're right, actually, and we'll talk about that. So good insight there, Ivan. You're absolutely right. That was a little bit more so than anything else that we got. So, very specific warnings from Disney, though, all the same. So I don't know. I really hope we're able to see these characters interact again. I can't imagine She-Hulk. I can't imagine She-Hulk is going to show up on Daredevil, even with 18 episodes.
What?
Like, is it really going to fit into a story that there's? I don't know. I mean, 18 episodes is so many.
Oh, come on.
They must have a huge story to tell, right?
Right. And why wouldn't you think out of all those episodes, she might pop back in for a quickie?
Well, that's true. I mean, she'd just sort of like hop across the country the way that the early versions of Hulk couldn't fly, but he would just hop really far.
She's one of the she's one of the female lawyers of the year. That really threw me off, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't there? I mean, I was under the impression there was just gonna be one, and it seemed like Jen was kind of caught off guard too when they called all these other women up there.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
I don't know. It was like everybody won the award. And Daniel does have this point. The biggest MCU news from this episode is that the Sokovia Accords were repealed. Also, biggest news for right now is the arrival of the one, the only Count Eric Connor. We've had your Walk of Shame graphic up on the screen for a while, Eric. Kame Egan mentioned that she really liked the moment, so it seemed like a time to get it. Before we dive into the last part of the episode, the part where Jen was like, why is this not over yet? We'll talk about that stuff in a moment, but I wanted to get your thoughts on Leapfrog, the team up with Daredevil on the streets and in the sheets.
Daring on the streets, devil in the sheets.
Exactly.
Also known as Christian's college motto. It was great.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I hope Michael. Last night, Christian and I were talking about the Venn diagrams we are in, and those lovely times when all three of our Venn diagrams intersect. I hope this episode's one of them because I thought it was just great. I so enjoy. I do not remember the leapfrog. I don't know if y'all did, but I'm here for the leapfrog all day long in his not in his non-flame retardant suit.
Yeah,
which was awesome. But yeah, I thought this episode was great. It really just checked off every box, including, of course, it was actually kind of sexy. There's actual chemistry between those actors, and I realize how rare that has been in the MCU to actually have moments that were actually felt like there was some kind of sexual charge to them. And even though there's some great relationships they've built along the way, like Pepper and Tony, but this was, I thought, went next level. So yeah, no, I thought this was great. Hopefully you dug it too.
Yeah, no, we were very happy with this interaction. And what I had said at the beginning of the episode is that, they've been pretty consistent with the tone in most of the episodes. I think that this is the episode that perfectly represents what this show can and should be, especially fun team up with a guest star. But, obscure character, some hijinks, Jen's personal life goes well, up until they go to the gala, and I think that it really was fun. And, I can't believe, as she pointed out when she talked to us, breaking the fourth wall, wait, is next week the finale? So here we are, and we've only got one more show left. It'll be next week. And let's talk about the moment really where everything changes. They get to the gala. Big ups to Marklyn Baker, still waiting for the Bronson Pinchot cameo. We might not get it this season, maybe season 2. But, Eric, your thoughts on sort of the real important tonal shift when that video starts playing behind her and, how she responds to it.
Oh, that was great. And what I thought was interesting too, because it's kind of like, well, what dirt do they have on her?
Yeah.
And the end of it all, what was it? They just basically sex shamed her, And
Right.
what did she do that was so wrong? She had intercourse. Um, and so I think like there was something kind of
Yeah.
cool about that, that it was not some secret. It wasn't something where like, I don't know, the Justice League where all of a sudden after saving the world multiple times, they're like, oh yeah, no, Superman kills a bunch of people randomly. That's his MO. Like as opposed to that, like here it was something that was very real world, and
Mhm.
yeah, the intelligentsia is kind of creepy with their mask and the voice, but in the end of it all, it's not so different from, I mean, like honestly, what they did to Aaron Andrews from ESPN,
Yeah.
and her freak out was great. I love the sort of visual references to like King Kong and Mighty Joe Young, where it's like the monster is unleashed, everyone's running, lights
Yeah.
blaring, and
Everyone's like
she finally
horrified by
hulked
what they're
out.
seeing. Yeah, she
Yeah,
finally hulked out.
I'm sorry. She finally hulked out visually,
Oh yeah, brother.
which I thought was great. We've been waiting for that moment too, and yeah, no, I thought that
Yeah.
it was a
And
really interesting choice. What triggered her, but it
it
worked.
goes back to Bruce telling her, and what he's talked about before
Right.
is that, he's always angry and you just have to figure out how to manage it. And that's a moment where you can't manage it. I agree with it's interesting that it isn't like the J. Jonah Jameson, Spider-Man's a menace. It's more like she's a bad person and look at all this sexy time stuff. And I think that it's, to me, I think, at first we were getting the impression that this was somebody who wanted some superpowers, and the allegation is made that she stole these from Bruce, which is interesting. It's like, yeah, sorry, my cousin bled all over me after a car crash. It's
Right,
not
right,
on me.
right, right.
Who hasn't had that happen? But I think that the fact that it talks about, did they actually call her a slut? I think that they might have used that word, but that was definitely
Yeah.
the tone. So I'm like, all right, this is clearly that Todd guy who like is way too interested into her. And this is like, there's no reason for him to have kept showing up unless like this is him. What do you think about my theory that this is just Todd who really finds her to be an interesting specimen and would like to share some specimens with her of his own?
Oh,
Michael. Yeah, I know it's supposed
Michael.
to be gross.
I think that this somehow comes back to Emil Blonsky. I don't think it's all this guy, because this guy's kind of an idiot. I can't really imagine him orchestrating everything to work out as planned, especially given her interaction with the thugs in like episode like 2, I think, where they like attack her and they're just like have no chance in that alley. But I mean, he could be a red herring, like quite possibly.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know. I think this kind of all goes back to Emil.
Yeah, I mean, we only have one episode to pay off the fact that I don't think anybody believes that Emil Blonsky is on the up and up. The malfunction of his ankle bracelet that was that just last week, maybe 2 weeks ago.
You get like, I believe maybe that happened with the chickens. Like,
okay,
you're really wrapped up in that.
Well, just because I'm like, well, clearly he's up to something that, like, look, I think you'll agree that what's going on there at the little hippie commune is not what it appears to be.
It's a little off.
That's why I'm inclined to believe that he did leave what he was supposed to. And he's probably done it a lot of times. And this is the one time where taking off the ankle monitor didn't work. You know what I mean? Like, whatever trick he came up with, it worked dozens of times, but this was the one time where it didn't. And so he got found out. But I think that obviously Emil Blonsky is going to play into the season finale next week. And, I think that Todd might just be a patsy. I think there is something bigger, not Patsy from Absolutely Fabulous, Michael. Obviously, I would never try and sully that good image. But Eric, what do you think about sort of what comes next? So Intelligentsia, Blonsky, Todd, all these other things. What are your thoughts on where this is all headed?
Well, so originally, I was trying to piece it together because originally it was the idea of going after her blood, which we still, I guess, aren't positive if they got it or not. Like, that's something we debated previously. So I'm thinking, okay, well, they want the blood, but then they hacked her phone, and then they set up a camera. It feels like a lot of the and thens, which, in writing is one of those two words that are sort of like a dirty word combo. Yeah. Because it's like, where's the causality of all this? So, to be honest, I'm a little baffled about what the big scheme here is, because it feels like at times, since we don't really know the face of the real villain, so to speak, we don't get a sense of an overreaching plan that connects all these disparate sort of conflicts that have happened. So I will also assume it's Emil Blonsky. I have no horse in the race between y'all about the ankle bracelet. But I think in the end of it all,
you're like in Pulp Fiction. Like, I don't even have an opinion. You're just
my name is Paul.
Okay.
My name is Paul, and it's between y'all. Exactly.
All right, that's fair.
I don't know where they're going to land with all this, but in the end of it all, I get Emil, that goofy guy who's really who I felt bad for the wine that got spilled. Although I loved her out when she was like, "I'm charging you for the full hour," which I thought was great. Right. There was a lot of really good one-liners in this episode. In fact,
I definitely agree.
I would love the leader.
A couple of thoughts from the chat. I still want the boss to be the leader. I wouldn't say no to Abomination, and Ghost is wondering if Emil's working with Titania. Look, it's all coming together next week, and I would be shocked if we don't see Bruce again. Yeah,
and also I don't know how. I mean, getting it all in a half hour is going to be the thing that
they might
I'm a little concerned about.
They might go supersized to 41 minutes.
Right.
We'll see what we get.
Look,
I mean we've gotten enough of these shows that have been almost an hour, and even non-Marvel shows on Disney Plus. I mean, I think of the ones that I've watched, the Star Wars show Andor has had the biggest range of like 47 minutes or like 32 minutes. So they're going to tell however much story they need to. But yeah, there's a lot to pack in there, and personally, I am here for it. And looking forward to it, and we will talk about it next week and on this very show. And just as I was going to transition to the thing that Eric and I were going to talk about, but that's all right.
I think he's going to get his Iron Sheik.
Yeah, Cam Egan, I think, wanted to make sure that he has an Iron Sheik to wrestle with the Hulkster brother. And there he is. One of the best Twitter follows you can get is, of course, the Iron Sheik. And Eric, you're not going to be able to be with us next week when we finally tie up all this She-Hulkness, are you?
TBD.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be an issue of whether or not you're going to be able to watch the show. But what you've already seen, and you and I went to last night, so thank you for bringing me to that. Yeah, there's the poster that we got, and then there's just a graphic representation of it. Tonight at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, Werewolf by Night will be presented on Disney Plus. What I didn't realize until we got there, it's not a series, but it's also not a movie. It's a special. It's under an hour, but it is presented sort of in a way that it feels very much like a monster movie, but / suspense thriller from like the 30s and 40s. And what I had no idea until this event came up was that it was directed by Michael Giacchino, the composer who's done stuff for Marvel, a lot of J.J. Abrams stuff. I think that a lot of people started to really notice him with the music cues on Lost. And I think the best way to sum it up without spoiling anything about it, it was a lot of fun. It was somebody who was really enjoying getting to play with these characters. And anybody who saw the trailer knows that there's a character who's not in the title, but had their own ongoing series throughout the 70s and is a character that's shown up a lot. And we got to see that character, and he was used really well. And I don't know what to say about it other than like, boy, that sure was fun. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, honestly, there's almost not much more you can say about it before you start to get a little more in the weeds on it. But it was it. I think the Q&A afterwards really showed that, Michael Giacchino, like he's a fan.
Yeah.
He's a fan.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige and him started talking about his directing, and Kevin Feige said, like, what Marvel title would you want to do? And he goes, Werewolf by Night. And Kevin Feige's like, I'm sorry, what? So this was like a passion project. Yeah, right. And I think doing this as a special was smart. I in the end of it all, I do hope it links up to other Marvel properties because they did such a nice job of establishing a few of the key players in this. So it doesn't really have much tie-in now.
There is the horror / monster corner of the Marvel universe, like characters that are actually like. There are a couple of X-Men stories with Dracula in it, and it's the Marvel iteration of Dracula. Storm gets turned into a vampire. These things all happen. All right, I'm not making it up. So I mean, the fact that if you want to tell vampire stories, you want to tell Werewolf by Night, Frankenstein monster. There's a lot that they can do. I think you just have to be careful because Michael. I think any of us with a Netflix subscription has learned in the last few days that just putting Frankenstein's monster on the screen doesn't necessarily translate into good entertainment. Do you think that is a bold statement, or am I pretty spot on with that?
Man, Rob Zombie makes the worst movies ever. I don't think I've seen a single good movie by him in my entire life.
Mean, it is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. We're talking about the Monsters.
Oh, wait, Michael, so you saw the Monsters also?
Oh, yeah. I saw it over a week ago. It really depressed me.
It should. It should. I believe that movie is so bad that it depressed the economy. It's financially, I think that we're in bad shape.
I did like his Herman's Punk band. I thought it was so ridiculous that I just loved it, but that was probably about the only thing I liked about that movie.
Michael, what are your thoughts? Yeah, Herman's Hermit. Michael, what are your thoughts on the horror monster part of the Marvel universe? It doesn't strike me as, characters like Werewolf by Night or Man Thing, that those were really at the top of your list. Is that accurate?
No. Yeah. No. I mean, I'm going to watch it just because it's free. I mean, I guess we pay $5.99
we pay for it. Ivan wants to know if there's a lot of blood. So I'll tell you this, Ivan. It is, and yes, doggy. So it's not gory. There are some graphic things that happen in terms of some, weaponry being used to attack people in creative ways. But I don't know. It's cartoony to me. How, it's not as gory as a Friday, even an old Friday the 13th movie. I'm not talking about the newer ones. Where it's oh, there's an arrow in a guy's eye socket, but does it really look real or does it look, cartoony? And I think that this, especially being in black and white, it was sort of I don't know, old time. It was almost like cutesy horror. There's a couple of things happen, there are, severed body parts here and there. But honestly, I don't know, Michael. I'm sorry, Eric. Obviously I keep mixing the two of you up because you look the same. But Eric, what do you think about sort of it? It's not gory. There's a couple of gruesome moments, but you could put this on a regular broadcast television, couldn't you, Eric?
Well, I mean, compared to, I don't know, Hannibal, which was on NBC, it's pretty tame.
Yeah.
But, I will, to their credit, though, I think there were a couple of nice moments that were somewhat shocking in their specificity of gore, even though they didn't show much. But like where an arrow goes at one point, which is kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that would hurt.
Yeah.
So
No.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that this is another example of, the way that Falcon and Winter Soldier was, the illustration that, they're willing to go further than I thought Disney Plus ever would. When Disney Plus launched almost 3 years ago, and I know it's almost 3 years because I bought a 3-year subscription and it's about to end, and I can't believe that I'm already at the end. But I think that there were a lot of concerns about properties like, what are they going to do when they have Daredevil back? Is he going to be able to be dark? And maybe not. But they have done a lot more than I thought. They've pushed a lot of different envelopes, and they continue to, in all honesty. And I think that being open to telling a story like this, Werewolf by Night, you make sure that the kids know, the parents know what the kids might see. Put all the warnings on it. Yeah. But I don't know. I think that it'll be interesting to see, and we can talk about it a little bit next week. I mean, we'll focus a lot on the She-Hulk finale, but I'll be interested in hearing everybody's thoughts.
Is it present day?
I don't know. They did a good job. What do you think, Eric? Is it modern day? Because I don't know if it is.
The way I'd put it is it could be, but it also could not be. Yeah.
Nobody's checking. Nobody's checking
no cell phone
scores on their iPhone. But it's also, you don't see like, an army of like Model T Fords pull up out front while everybody gets out. So it could be. It's sort of like a timeless presence. I think that there'll be more exploration of some of these stories. So I think it'll probably be modern day, but you couldn't really tell. Yeah, right. So I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, one thing I was going to add too, Christian, is I think, it goes back to that question of when's it going to be too much Marvel? When's the bubble going to burst? And I think once again, and really all the credit to Kevin Feige for finding great little corners of the Marvel world to explore that they haven't gone to yet. And this got me excited for more of this. Like, like I didn't come out of this thinking, oh, well, that was a fun 52 minutes. Rather, now what? I want to see these guys again, and I think, and I think again, like the horror side of it, the multiverse side. I mean, I think like they're being very smart about it, and even that idea of like what they're doing with like Armor Wars, the fact they realize like maybe it wouldn't work as a TV show, so maybe we should just call it a movie. Like I think they're realizing like maybe they're gonna have to burrow into all sorts of places to keep this thing fresh, and so far they're still doing it.
Yeah, I think that my gut reaction is when they get to Rawhide Rex and Two Gun Kid, when they get to their westerns, that might be too much. But you know what? I can't rule them out. They might actually put together some good Western stories, So
yeah,
I'm not even going to guarantee. I'm not saying take that to the bank, So we'll see, and I'll be interested to hear how people react to it. It's not going to be for everybody because of the genre that it is, but I think that the people who like that stuff, I mean, the theater that we saw it in, that was a crowd who clearly has an appreciation for quirky, offbeat kind of stuff. And I look forward to everybody getting to check that out tomorrow night. So Daniel makes a good point. Elsa certainly isn't a character from the past, and her past is referenced. So I assumed it was present day in the MCU timeline. I think that they're keeping that door open for sure, but let us know what you think when you actually get to see it. That is all the time we have for this week. Some of us will certainly be back next Thursday, I believe at our regular time, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, as we talk about the She-Hulk finale, and you'll be able to share your thoughts with us on Werewolf by Night in the chat. Then in just under 10 minutes here on the Blackcast Network, you will find our annual MLB playoff preview episode. Keme Egan, sorry that your White Sox will not be a part of the conversation this year, but feel free to join us if you'd like. That'll be coming up in a few minutes here on the Blackcast YouTube channel. Always subscribe to the Blackcast YouTube channel. Please, while we're talking, somebody new subscribed. Let's have that happen every week. Dozens of people subscribing every week. But until then, make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at ChristianDMZ. And look for me on last week. I guess they do 2 episodes a week. But I was on an episode last week of Who Are These Podcasts? So if you'd like to hear me as a guest, make fun of other people's podcasts, and especially Stuttering John of The Howard Stern Show, please check that out. And I'm at Christian DMZ. Eric Connor, where can people find you other than Israel at the end of the week?
Well, if you're not in Israel, you can just come over to Count Eric Connor at Instagram and Twitter and hang out with me and my boy here, Fezzik. And my
Is he going to Israel?
Nah, he's staying here with the kids and with my father-in-law. So he'll be still here, but I'll bring him back some souvlaki and some shawarma. Oof, I just confused Middle Eastern foods.
I know, exactly. He'll be on a list for sure. Michael?
My hair is taking up like this whole screen.
I know. I really don't like the narrow boxes. I prefer the...
Wait, hold on. I was going to actually just have the beard take up my whole window.
Okay, go ahead. While Michael talks, you do that.
I would say, this is really throwing me off. You can find me on Instagram at I Hate Michael Shirley, or on Twitter at Michael Egg Shirley for now.
And happy birthday to Ivan Soto in the chat. Hope you getting a great She-Hulk episode was fun. And I don't know how you'll respond to Werewolf by Night, but hopefully you check it out. And if I know anything, Ivan, I feel like you should be keeping up on Andor. But if you're not, jumping in and binging 5 episodes instead of waiting week to week is probably the way to do it. That is all the time we have. Join me in what is now 4 minutes here on the Blackcast YouTube channel for the MLB playoff special. But if not, we will see you next week. And as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!
Let's go Mets.